We're in for a wild night.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 101 of Born to be Wild, a Wild exclusive Hearthstone podcast where we have fun hanging out with friends, talking about the Wild format of Hearthstone and spotlighting members of the Wild community. I'm your host, as always, Nate Wolf. It is wonderful to be here on a beautiful spring evening here, joining you from Portland, Oregon tonight. Really excited to be having a lore episode. We haven't had one in a little while, and this will be really fun. Before we get into that, real quick, Hydra had a kind of last minute family thing come up, so Hydra is not joining us tonight, but am joined by two of my other favorite people. Electric Sheep City, how are you tonight?
Howdy, I'm doing pretty well myself. Going through the house selling process, just sold the house here, so pretty intense stuff. Work was work, moving house stuff in general, so busyness, and hey, got to jam some Demon Hunter earlier today, working towards that 1K portrait. I'm at 911.
Ooh.
We're not calling the police, but we are jamming Demon Hunters. So it's been a lot of fun here. But we've got, of course, our resident lore master as well.
Absolutely. Welcome back to the show, Loremaster Goliath the Dwarf. How are you tonight?
I am doing fine. Always happy to be here. Honestly, a great stress relief, something else to focus on right now. My work has been a little bit crazy the past couple of weeks as we had one of our reporters kind of step down, and we found someone to replace, but they're moving from Ohio and won't be here until 2 months from now. So it's a bit of double duty at the moment in terms of writing out newspaper stories and stuff. And I don't know about you guys, but I forgot to change my calendar last night.
Uh-oh.
And I forgot that it was April 1st. Normally, I'm really good with changing calendars. I'm almost ceremonial about changing to a new month. But I was very confused with all the YouTube videos that were popping up in my feed and the articles that I was seeing, that I was like, okay, is the world just going further mad as usual? Because, I mean, nothing surprises me at this point, honestly. But then I was like, oh, yeah. It's April Fool's Day.
I hate April Fool's Day.
I hate April Fool's Day too, because so much of it is just mean-spirited, right? I like a good joke, but so much of it is just at someone else's expense, which I'm not a big fan of. So I have an annual April Fool's Day joke that I tell. The joke is that the joke is so terrible. So, whenever I was going into work today, whenever I was driving around, did you happen to see them as well? There are all these elephants hiding in the trees. Did y'all see them?
No.
See, it's just because they're really good at hiding. That's the joke. That is my April Fool's Day joke.
I think the best types of pranks or April Fool's Day things are the ones where the person who was pranked can laugh just as much as the one doing the pranking.
Yeah. Honestly, a great example of that is the Hearthstone, April Fool's Day patch notes. There are lots of in-jokes.
Oh, they're so good. I just shared the link I added to the show notes, and
they self-owned themselves so many times there.
It's so good.
It's not like it was low effort either. It very clearly they put a lot of effort and a lot of time into that. Apparently the multiple devs spent about a week in December working on these.
I love it. I love that they put so much dedication into making a quality joke post.
It's so good. And I appreciate it. Someone posted something first thing this morning, or maybe it was yesterday, something to the effect of I wonder which company will take their April Fool's Day joke too far and then spend all of tomorrow apologizing for it. And there's always some cringy thing, and I haven't seen one yet, thankfully, but I don't know. My kid was talking about doing April Fool's Day jokes, and I was like, can we not? I don't want to be the fun police, but I was like, God, I hate these. And so I got home from
allowed when I was growing up, so I've never actually pulled one in my life.
I got home from work, and my son, he's only 10, but he likes to drink coffee, so we let him have decaf. Don't want to give him caffeine, but he's like, hey, I want to have a cup of coffee, but the coffee machine's not working. Can you help me with it? I was like, yeah. What's wrong with it? It's he's like, it's not plugged in, April Fools. And I was like, oh, phew. It was so innocent. It was so great. Like,
That's a good one.
if that's
a wholesome one.
like if that's the extent that I'm getting pranked, like, whew, okay, that's okay.
It's like the sort of thing I would say. It was like, I hear voices in my head even when there's no one around me, like right now.
It's Nate and me. We're not around you because we're on the computer.
Oh my god! That took me longer than it should have. When I was young, when I was young, I switched the salt and the sugar, which was a evil, mean-spirited joke.
I could ruin so much good food.
Yeah, and I think I did not do this, but I remember hearing about, like, you put like saran wrap over the toilet so you can't see it, and then you like
I've heard of that one.
That's so
That's
mean.
horrible.
Don't do that. Yeah, I see.
It better like put bubble wrap like under someone's covers or in their shoes or something, like something that it's a bit of a surprise, but it doesn't cause any damage.
No. We can't do that.
Exactly, Dame.
Oh my. Anyways, let's so we got a big night tonight. So a couple.
Funnily enough, we are talking about one of the greatest manipulators in the history of Warcraft. So it happens to work out very well that we're doing something on April Fool's Day.
Right?
Absolutely. So, for those of you joining us for the first time, welcome aboard. I'll briefly explain how the show works. We record this podcast live every Friday evening at twitch.tv/borntobewildhs. April Fool's Day 2022 is a Friday. So the video version of this podcast is then posted to YouTube shortly thereafter. Audio versions are also distributed to all of the podcast apps. If you happen to know a podcast app that we're not on, let us know and we'll put us on there. We happen to have just been added to Amazon fairly recently because of such a thing. So,
Absolutely.
however you are watching or listening or absorbing via osmosis this podcast today, thank you. Yes, you.
I'm trying to make a heart, but it kind of just looks like
I can see it. I can see the heart.
like a smooshy. Yeah. Hey, thank you everybody for listening, whether you're watching live here on Twitch or whether you're watching it later on YouTube or listening to the audio version. We really appreciate it. And again, a lot of times what we'll do with the show is try to have pictures and stuff on the screen as we're talking about stuff. Tonight we're doing a lore episode, and so there's more pictures, even more so than normal. So if you have the opportunity, I recommend watching this on YouTube. If you're listening to the audio, you'll get a lot out of it. But if you want to see the characters and the pictures and how they interact and how they compare, between Warcraft and Hearthstone, like, watch the video version of this and you might get a little bit more out of it. Anyways, before we get into the main topic of the show, real quick housekeeping matter. I do want to say a gigantic thank you to Shokunin, who is the executive producer of our show, and also to our other patrons. We really appreciate your support. It means the world to us, and we say this every week, but I mean it. It helps a lot. And so when we do things like we get new artwork, that's what like any money that we get just gets pumped right back into the show, and so it's super awesome. We appreciate it. If you're watching or listening to this and you want to support our content, please leave a like, subscribe, comment on the YouTube stuff. Or another real simple way that you can support for free is to leave a review on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcast, or wherever you listen, as just that helps other people find us. And then finally, if you're watching this live on Twitch, we do have some emotes that you can unlock by subscribing to this channel. If you've got Amazon Prime, that's free. You get a free Prime subscription, free Twitch sub with your Amazon Prime, if I'm saying that correctly.
Yes.
Anyways, and not that I'm trying to solicit Twitch subscribers here, but kind of ancillary, Hearthstone has an upcoming thing with Amazon Prime that if you're a Prime member, you get a bunch of free legendary cards from the upcoming set. Well, I guess from...
There's lots of cases where you can like be Prime free for a month and then cancel it. So I think I have another one of those. It recharges after a while, so that's a good way to take advantage if you happen to have that opportunity.
Yeah, it's super cool. And you know, I mean, I don't. If you don't, you don't. I don't want to try to solicit anyone. I do think we can cover real briefly in the news. There is going to be some free stuff via Amazon Prime and Twitch coming up shortly. Anyways, here's a little sneak preview of our upcoming emotes. They should be ready in the next week or so. These are like the base versions, but they're super cute, and so new emotes incoming, which are super fun. Anyways, that's the plug. But thank you all for joining us. Yeah. Oh, lastly, hey, there is a Patreon if you're interested. Links on the website. More importantly, if you're interested in interacting with us individually, we do have a Discord. For those of you not familiar, it's basically like an online community. It's free. There's a link to it on our website. We interact with people pretty much all day, every day. A really awesome and wholesome community there where we talk about life, but also Hearthstone decks and news and share stuff. It's a lot of fun. And so if you go to our website, borntobewildhs.com, links are there. Website has gone through a lot of maintenance over the past week, and we'll get some even more this week. We got to get everything ready for our big event later this week. And so I'm trying to make sure that everything is updated in time for that. Anyways, last little bit of news before we get into the main topic of the show is we talked about it last week quite a bit, but we've got this Theorycraft event that is happening this coming week. It's on Thursday, April 7th, from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. Pacific time on Twitch. So it'll be this channel here, but it'll be twitch.tv/borntobewildhs. And we were invited to participate in the official Hearthstone Voyage to Sunken City Theorycraft event for Wild, alongside some of our other Wild content creators. We're super honored to be invited, and that should be an absolute blast. Great excuse to take the day off work and play Hearthstone with the new cards a week before the release, which is just crazy. So if anyone's interested in checking that out, I'm sure we'll have probably end up recording a bunch of it and posting some stuff on YouTube later. But if you want to come hang out with us, that'd be awesome. So yeah, that is this coming Thursday, April the 7th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Pacific time, twitch.tv/borntobewildhs. Awesome. There are, let's see, two other quick things. Yeah.
So we are giving away a total of 3 bundles, 2 from courtesy of Blizzard, 1 mega bundle from our patron saint of Wild, Shokunin. So we've already given away 1 standard bundle from Hearthstone, but we have 2 more. So how can you enter to win these other 2? So for the other standard bundle, if you join our Discord and submit theory crafting ideas, not just the idea, but submit a theory crafted deck to our theory crafting channel in the Discord, and we will play. We'll look through them and play the ones that we're kind of most interested in, and then whenever we're playing those, the ones that we like the best, if you make a deck that we really like, you will get a standard bundle, courtesy of Blizzard, through us.
Yay!
We do have that mega bundle as well, courtesy of Shokunin. Thank you again, Shokunin, patron saint of Wild and Born to be Wild.
Couldn't resist, sorry.
Absolutely. So how can you enter to win that one? That one is also through our Discord. So share your stories with us. We want to know a positive story about Hearthstone and your experience with it. So whether it's a great game, a friend you made, a great experience at an event, like just someone in the community that you really gelled with, kind of whatever it may be, just as long as it's a positive experience that you've experienced. share it in our Discord server under the Positive Experiences channel. And that enters you to win that mega bundle, again, courtesy of Shokunin. So those are how you can win the 2 remaining bundles. The deadline for each. So the April 7th, get them in by then for the Positive Experiences, and we will draw those live at our next show on April 8th. And for the theory crafting event, get those in, before the theory crafting event itself starts. And like I said, we'll comb through those and decide the decks that we want to play the most, and play those. So before the theory crafting event itself starts on April 7th, as long as it's in before that time-stamped time, it counts as a submission. So that is the deadlines for those 2 as well.
Yeah, super excited. And we got a really good turnout last time. The reason that we're doing this positive experience thing, we've done it before for giveaways, and it was just such a wholesome experience hearing the stories from different people of, friends they've made or just great experiences that they've had, that it was you're having a bad day sometime, you read some of these and it's like, wow, they're, Hearthstone players can be nice sometimes. It's it's great. So we want to try to keep things positive. It's kind of it's what we try to do here. So
it's not all the haters gonna hate.
Hey. All right. Well, housekeeping aside, let's jump into the main topic of the show. So tonight we are doing a lore episode. Now, for those of you not familiar with or relatively recent to the show, we do lore episodes from time to time. Lore essentially is the stories behind the Hearthstone cards, and so there is a very rich world in the World of Warcraft. Many of our characters here in Hearthstone have extensive backstories. And so this is part 2 of a 4-part series specifically regarding the old gods. And so last time we covered Yasiraj, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Ashara, you're close enough.
And did a whole episode on that. It's on YouTube if you want to find it. If you go to our website, there's a separate page for the lore, and you can check that out. And
I still to this day say Yasharj. I know it's wrong, but I always do it.
I'm in Yasharj now.
Exactly.
Oh dear. Yeah. So this is part 2, and I think we had talked about doing it in a different order, but the Voyage to the Sunken City expansion was just announced, and so we have decided to cover N'Zoth tonight because N'Zoth actually fits in very well with the theme of the upcoming expansion. And so we'll also be doing a Sunken City lore episode, but we need to wait for the rest of the cards to be revealed and kind of see where it goes. This sort of story tonight will be centered specifically around N'Zoth, and we'll touch on a couple of our Sunken City things, but we aren't going to go too deep. Anyways, I've done enough talking. Let me pass the mic over to Goliath, and we will get started here tonight with the lore of N'Zoth.
Yes, gather around for a story. So yeah, as Nate said, this is essentially both a part 2 of the 4-part series of the Old Gods, while simultaneously being a part 1 preview for Voyage to the Sunken City. Yeah, it's just happened to work out this way. We were initially planning on covering Yogg-Saron, hail his randomness, but this has kind of forced our hands because it's going to be relevant with talking about Sunken City stuff, so we may as well kind of give everyone a bit of preview knowledge here to give some background so we don't have to go off on extreme tangents when talking about the Sunken City. So we are just going to start out by having a recap of some of the common origin elements of the Old Gods that we discussed back in Yasiraj. Let's give Nate and Sheep a little pop quiz right here. What do you guys remember that we discussed last time?
I just remember the parody song of based on Rasputin. Yeah, so the old gods and the like, I just remember old gods and elementals and titans, and the old gods are like, you know, kind of like stuck in the ground, and they corrupt what's around them, and they're in different parts of the world over here.
Yeah, I think that the thing that stuck out the most to me was the guarded piece of one of the old gods. I can't remember who was guarding that, but that was the part that stood out to me the most, because that was like that aesthetic and that general idea was probably the spookiest part. Like, not just the old gods, the like kind of etherealness, but then what the more humanoid characters were doing with that corrupted piece. So that was the part that really just kind of stuck with me, and that really gave me nightmares, but kind of.
Yeah, yeah, old gods do have that. It's that Lovecraftian vibe, that thing that these are aberration beings beyond our comprehension. The more you learn about them, the more you lose your sanity. It's that type of creature that we're talking about here. So to recap, where the old gods come from, they are manifestations of the void, which is basically the embodiment in the cosmic World of Warcraft of emptiness, of consumption, of the lack of anything. And the void, by its very nature, wants to destroy the physical universe, just consume everything. And so, in order to do that, the void beings called the Void Lords managed to create the old gods, briefly push open this hole into the physical universe. They couldn't do anything more than that. It took a lot of their power to just do that, and they just threw all the old gods out into the universe, and they go landing on random planets like fleshy meteorites.
All hail
Now,
Yogg-Saron.
so there are multiple old gods on other worlds that we don't really know about. But the important thing here is for our worlds, the center world of the story of Azeroth. Now, 4 old gods that we know of, because retcons can always add more, landed on Azeroth with the goal of basically corrupting the soul that is inside the world. Azeroth is a very special planet that has a baby titan inside it, a vast, powerful cosmic being that will one day kind of hatch out of it like an egg or something. But the idea is that the old gods can worm their tendrils down to the very core of the world and corrupt the world's soul. Then the Void Lords have a corrupted titan that can kind of do their bidding of consuming all of the universe. And then, as part of that, dominating the entire world, there were the naturally existing elemental lords on Azeroth. We'll get to those in just a little bit on another slide. But the thing is that basically the old gods land and they take over everything. And the image that we have right up here is what is called the Black Empire, when the old gods ruled the entire world and were essentially huge monoliths. Like, these things are the sizes of cities, their physical bodies. And they secreted a whole bunch of gross little minions from their bodies. They had some very insectoid-like ones that were called the Akir, and would later become what we know as Mantid, Nerubians, Silithid, ones that you're probably familiar with from some of the Hearthstone cards. Yeah, those basically got secreted out like lice from old gods' bodies or something. And then you have Faceless, which are properly called Naraki, which are also, that's where they come from. They just kind of like the maggots coming out there. Yeah, it's really gross when you think about it. But
I like how even explaining how they kind of are secreted, for lack of a better term, is in and of itself kind of just like hair raising.
It's
yes,
such a
this is
gross
the
word.
nature of the old gods. Yeah. Yeah, so and these are the minions. So like you see an image, it's not just a bodies. You see like obelisk and city type of things around it. Those are the ones who built it, the faceless and the insectoid Akir. So they're the ones who constructed all that as the old gods' servants. But the old gods were not without their competition. They had to deal with the elemental lords, which are kind of the natural manifestations of elemental energies that occur on many worlds, Azeroth included. And there were four, only three of which are Hearthstone cards, two of them from the very beginning, one of them with the first expansion, and still we're missing the fourth. I'm sorry, this just drives me crazy. But what we have is Ragnaros the Fire Lord, who most Hearthstone players know. He is very iconic. Die Insect. He's a Tiki Lord in Battlegrounds. He's everywhere. Then we have Alakir the Wind Lord, who again was one of the first ones. And yeah, like swatting insects.
Exactly.
So yeah, he just Alakir just swats the insect, but Ragnaros is far more direct and complete with die insect. And then we have Neptulon, who is the Lord of Water, who came out with the Goblins versus Gnomes expansion. And the one that we are lacking still is Therazane the Stone Mother, who is Lord of the Earth Elementals. And so essentially the old gods completely dominated and made the Elemental Lords their minions, the great generals in their army. Now, when the Titans came along, these great cosmic beings of order who want to be able to nourish life and especially when they find that Azeroth has a Titan inside of it that needs to be nourished and saved, they see there's these old gods that are kind of a real big problem here. So they decide to fight them. They are too big to have much damage control on their own because, as analogy I used last time is, it's like if you have your sandbox and there's a bunch of ants around, you can try to smash the ants, but you're probably just gonna smash like all the sand castles that are built inside it as well. And so in order to prevent from damaging the world itself, they create these smaller creatures called the Titan Keepers that help to fight the old gods' armies. Now, what we talked about in last time with Azshara is this one old god that was so powerful that the Titan Keepers couldn't defeat it, and so the Titan Thul had to reach down and yank it out of the ground.
Yeah, that's right. They because when the old gods that they're like embedded into the surface of the earth, right? And
very thick roots.
Roots.
And it looks kind of like a Judas Priest cover, album cover for like Ram It Down.
Or if you have I don't know if you guys know, I live in the Midwest, so there's a lot of prairie in the area, or at least used to be in some areas. And one thing that I learned is that the prairie grass, the roots go really, really deep and hold it all together. You cannot pull out prairie grass without huge clods of the soil coming with it, going very deep. And that's kind of what the old gods' tendrils are like. And since it caused so much damage when Y'Shaarj was broken out, I actually created this huge hole that was bleeding arcane energy. And in order to stop it, the Titans had to kind of fill it with water, slap a magical band-aid over it. That would become the Well of Eternity. We'll get back to that later. But since they were yeah, okay, we can't really risk doing this with the other three old gods, they instead decide that all they can do is imprison them. So they defeat all of the other old gods and create magical prisons around them, bury them deep within the earth, and do their best to nullify any influence that they have. It doesn't work entirely, because over time, over the many ages, those barriers are going to start to weaken a bit. But at least at the start, it does a pretty good job of sealing them away. And N'Zoth is actually the very first of the old gods to be imprisoned. Actually considered to be the weakest of the 4 old gods. Though we're still talking old gods here, so that doesn't mean he's a pushover, just in comparison. Because they fought with each other too, honestly. These are beings of pure chaos and madness. They're not teaming up. They fight each other. And the Zoth actually once lost a huge fight against Yasharaj, which is why Yasharaj had the huge territory in the Black Empire that you may remember seeing the map, and N'Zoth is just kind of has this teeny little spot off to the side in what we now have as the Eastern Kingdoms. So yeah, he had the smaller share of things actually, and was defeated first, but N'Zoth is clever. N'Zoth's plan is generally to wait things out, let your enemies destroy each other, gather lots of influential pawns, and then be able to spring them on the world when everything is weakest. And this is a strategy that we're going to see used a couple times here throughout the show. So
That makes
have
the mechanics of both of N'Zoth's cards just makes so much more sense now, too.
Exactly. That's what I love about this, when you can connect the way that the card works with who the character is in it. And it's why for a lot of the time, some people might look at an effect and go, why the heck are they putting that into the game? I look at it and go, ooh, I see what you're doing there. And that's why I'm here. I'd love to share that with everyone. So we have the first of N'Zoth's major conquests here. The first of those mighty pawns that he gathers, who is none other than Deathwing the Destroyer, who is... Everyone in Hearthstone knows Deathwing. He's been around from the start. He has, 5 different card versions of him now. So Deathwing was originally a dragon named Neltharion the Earth Warder, who was one of the original dragon aspects. Original creatures that were actually evolved elementals into beings called proto-drakes. And a team of 5, Neltharion among them. The other ones are the other dragon aspects Malygos, Ysera, Alexstrasza, Nazdormu, and Neltharion were a big team that took down Galakrond, who you remember Galakrond from Descent of Dragons. And so, as a reward, the Titans blessed the dragons that accomplished defeating Galakrond with special powers to make them guardians of the world, of different aspects. Like Nazdormu got time, Alexstrasza got life, Malygos got magic. Neltharion was given custodian over the earth. He had a very strong tie with the earth. Small little problem here. The earth is also where the old gods are imprisoned. And so through that connection, N'Zoth in particular, like all the old gods had a bit of part to play, but N'Zoth was the spokesman for the group here, wormed their way into the mind of this noble guardian of the world, and the burden that he had to bear. Because that's like, those things like, you're carrying the world on your shoulders, the weight of the world on your shoulders. For Neltharion, it was rather literal. This was a ridiculously unbearable burden that he just driving him crazy over time anyway, and the old god seized on that weakness and drove him mad, eventually turning him against all of the other dragons and corrupting his entire dragon flight, and the dragons, the Black Dragonflight, would become very chief agents of the old gods when called upon to do so. So we talked a lot about them back in our Nixia's Lair topic about all the Deathwing family and all of that.
Yeah, and actually, I'm just going to take this 2 seconds to plug. We do lore episodes from time to time, and typically we'll try to match them to what's going on in Hearthstone. And so our last one was specifically on Onyxia and the Black Dragonflight. We got into the whole family, really, which is Deathwing and Wrathion and some others. And so If you want to listen to that, go to our website, borntobewildhs.com. We've got a separate page for the lore stuff, and we'll have all of the lore episodes posted there. So if you want to do a deep dive into the Black Dragon Flight and get the whole history of Deathwing and Onyxia and Nefarian and the rest, really cool. Have an opportunity to do that. Check out the website and you'll find it there. Okay, sorry. Plug is done. Carry on.
So, that is essentially, again, we're not going to rehash the entire story of Black Dragonflight here. People can listen to it in what you just plugged. But the important thing here is that Deathwing is basically N'Zoth's first major agent, first major ace in the hole right here that he has under his control and can call upon. Deathwing kind of goes around, does his own thing for a while, but anytime that N'Zoth wants to pull on that leash, Deathwing is going to come running, willingly or not. We have our second story, and this is the one that's going to tie into Sunken City. So there's several things that I'm going to kind of glaze over a bit here that we're going to go into a bit more detail about in our next lore episode. But essentially, what we have here is where the Naga come from. So, a very long time ago, in fact, 10,000 years ago, there was the Night Elf Empire, which is where Illidan and Tirada and Malfurion all lived, because, man, they're really old, and they must have amazing moisturizing cream or something, because they do not look it. But essentially, there was the Night Elf race ruling most of the world, and it was still all one big continent at this point. The continent as a whole was called Kalimdor, and Queen Azshara was the ruler of it. She was extremely charismatic, extremely powerful, one of the most powerful mages slash sorceresses, wielders of the arcane that has ever been in World of Warcraft. So if people are claiming up here we have another mage skin, there's not really another option that they could have made Ashara. She is the arcane mage in her heyday. But Ashara got greedy and ended up making a deal with the demons of the Burning Legion of helping them invade Azeroth because they'll give her even more power. She was so powerful that some of the demon generals made sure not to cross her. She was so powerful that she essentially thought that she was going to get to marry Sargeras or something and become a cosmic goddess. Plans didn't quite work out because the Burning Legion was turned away in what we call the War of the Ancients. Again, this is where people like Illidan and Malfurion and a whole bunch of other characters come into play that helped to drive away the demons. Using the Dragon Soul, which we have that weapon in Hearthstone that was initially, in fact, created by Deathwing and used to betray the other dragons. But it was used to help to suck all the other demons back through a portal and destroyed the Well of Eternity. Because again, here's that Well of Eternity again. This is that spot where Y'Shaarj was yanked out. It was so full of arcane power. This is what the Night Elf Empire drew on for a lot of their arcane power. And they pummeled the depths, increasing more and more power. That's actually what attracted the demons to it in the first place. But now everything has exploded. The world is shattering. This is, in fact, what we call the shattering. Or the sundering, rather, I should say. It's the sundering. And so the big, glorious capital city of Zinashari is right on the edge of the Well of Eternity that has just exploded, and it's sinking down. There's a lot of drowning elves right now. Several of the rebels, who again include our favorite night elf heroes, they make it to dry land and stuff. They're protected by the wilds and everything. However, Queen Azshara and the nobles, who are called the Highborn, these are the night elves who were not into the druidism at all. They look down at them as backwards hippies. These are the ones who are the high-powered arcane sorcerers here. They're all drowning, going deep into this sinking water where the land is collapsing around them. There's nowhere to swim to. They're all down. And Azshara is approached by a little fish. A little fish that is a manifestation of N'Zoth. And this is where our little Battlegrounds minion comes into play. If anyone has ever wondered, why do we have a fish as part of N'Zoth's Battleground hero ability? It's because this fish is just a tiny little fraction of N'Zoth's power manifesting into the world. And N'Zoth and Azshara come to a little deal. He initially says that she's going to be a servant, but she still has a lot of her guile and charisma, even while literally drowning. And she's not going to just be desperate and completely take him up on the order. She manages to negotiate that she's not going to be a slave to N'Zoth. She's going to be his queen. It's like the whole being the demon queen didn't quite work out, so now she's going to content herself with being the old god's queen.
How can I ask you a question though? Like
yes,
yeah. I mean, I understand. Like the you paint a vivid picture, right? So the world is collapsing. We're underwater. Everybody's dying, and like the little fishy swims up, red glowy eyes. It's like you want to buy a funnel cake, but no, it's like, hey, you want to not die and be the queen instead. I mean,
essentially.
So okay, yeah, I've always seen this, like the fish of N'Zoth in Battlegrounds, and had just no clue, like, why a fish? Like it never dawned on me, and so it just goes to show, right, that Hearthstone has such a rich backstory in lore if you know what you're looking for, or if you go behind the scenes, because you could play, how many people play Battlegrounds all the time without ever knowing any of this and just be like, well, that's kind of weird that they picked the fish, but okay. And so okay, so that makes sense. And so in this picture here we see the queen underwater, essentially like talking to the fish, but this is like, she can't like breathe underwater or anything, can she? I mean, I guess like she's
N'Zoth is briefly giving her like a pause on the death to talk and make the deal. But actually, initially, when she tries talking back to him, he briefly withholds, and she's suddenly drowning for a little bit, has that slight panic, because he just wanted to show her before solidifying the deal that, yeah, I could let you drown here. Just reminding you of that factor. But yeah, no, so she has a little bit of a pause
right?
there. Yeah, power move, exactly. That's what they're all about.
Well, and I don't want to go too far off topic, but like, for those of you watching the video version or watching this live, like you'll see here on the screen, one of the pictures is from the cinematic in World of Warcraft. There's the card from Battlegrounds, and then the third picture there is actually a screenshot from the Voyage to the Sunken City cinematic. Like, it's like a blink and you'll miss it, but like, I mean, we can get into predictions later, but like, they have not announced N'Zoth yet, or little fishy N'Zoth yet, but like, maybe the writing's on the wall. So anyways, all right, carry on.
Yeah. So it also, Goliath, like you were saying, she must have some amazing, like either way with words or just like prowess herself.
She has nat 20s on her charisma score constantly.
Yeah, because if she's like in the clutches of death and he controls her fate, and yet she still negotiates from you will do my bidding and be my slave to you will be my queen. Like that's a really big swing there. Like that's wild.
Her logic essentially goes that you can let me die, but then there'll be no one to help you out at all, and you'll be down here as the god of nothing. That's literally her words there, the god of nothing. And because he shows her this vision of the Black Empire in its glory day, a horrible glory, and goes like, "I am a god and serve me." And she's like, "No, I'll be the queen." It's because she is very much banking on what N'Zoth wants, rather than just be desperate for her own life here. And
Yeah.
so as a result, she and all of the highborns, like the powerful sorcerer aristocrats who are drowning along with her, are all transformed into the Naga. And the Naga are N'Zoth's principal servants here. So all the other old gods have their little bug minions. The Mantid for Yasharaj, the Silithid and Karaji for Cthulhu, and the Nerubians for Yaxaran, but N'Zoth breaks the mold here. He prefers the snaky fish people to bugs, and
he's
I would probably prefer that too.
well, and N'Zoth is underwater, right? So when we see the card like N'Zoth, God of the Deep, and where they all kind of land, okay, N'Zoth is underwater, and so I suppose it makes sense somehow that these now elves are underwater, and now they need to be some kind of like fish people, kind of. So
right, then that so that they can survive now.
Right. And so we see the artwork here, the artwork on the screen for those of you listening to the audio version. We've got the new hero portrait, the mage skin for Queen Ashara. Azshara. Yeah, and then the card, the neutral legendary card, and you can compare kind of the before and after of the, I guess, elf form versus the Naga form. And then in this kind of in the background a little bit, I guess what we see here, and I think Goliath could probably describe it, but this is her still kind of floating in the water, but N'Zoth is, I guess you would say, like presenting a vision to her.
Yes, it's a vision
like
of the Black Empire.
Okay.
Oh, this is like you were saying, and it's terrible glory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
With all the crazy tentacles everywhere, and she's like,
exactly. He's flexing for her.
all this as that could be yours as far as the eye can see.
Yes. Everything the darkness touches.
Okay.
What about that bright place? You must never go there.
That's so good. That's so good. Well, yeah, so this is a big change, right? So it's changing appearance and stuff, and then not only her, but you were saying the her people essentially, right? Turn from their are now the new race called Naga.
Absolutely. That is where they come from. And that's about all we're going to go in for now. If you want to learn more about Naga, tune in to our next episode where they are going to be a major focus, but we can't spend too much time dwelling on this right now because this is just a N'Zoth step 2 right here. We've got more N'Zoth plans that have to come unfolding where he's going to bring everything together in a big attempt right now to fully go on and take over the world. No, not take over the world. Bring about what is called the Hour of Twilight, the end of all things, the goal of the old gods to have everything destroyed and corrupted. But first, Nate?
Yeah, all right, we've got a song. We've got a song here, and for those of you not familiar, we've done many parody songs over the years. Goliath has done some phenomenal ones, and has one for you here tonight. So we're gonna take a brief intermission and play the song, and then we will continue with the rest of our story of N'Zoth. So here you're in for a treat. Let me just play it right now. I just need to scroll up in our chat a tiny bit. Here you go.
As I walk through the halls of Nyaloth, the sleeping city, I take a look at my mind, and I see there's nothing pretty, cause I've been mind blasted and man so long, and all the old gods know my mind is gone. Yasharaj might be dead, but his heart still holds our power, and the Shah are always looking for new rage to devour. You better watch how you're talking, and where you're walking, or your pride, fear, and hatred will see your last squawking. The seven-headed god might have had the greatest girth, but others are still buried down in the earth. Fool, Cthulhu and his madness are down in Nagaraj, will break apart your mind, reassemble it like a collage. Been spending most our lives living in the old god's paradise. Power costs a heavy price, living in the old god's paradise. The tentacles and many highs, living in the old god's paradise. Filled with horrific sights, living in the old god's paradise. Thrust from the void with these abominations, beings of pure madness, craving domination, enslaving elementals, spawning the faceless. No rhyme and no reason to their goals, destructive and aimless. Yaxaron the beast with 1,000 maws. The god of death drains your hope, leaves you without a single cause, spreading nightmares to the trees and making flesh from stone. No one can comprehend them. Their full ramper unknown. The god of the deep lies down in the blackest sea, turning night elves into Naga to break him free. Nazar was the weakest but the longest surviving, with secret blaze of power and pawns so conniving. Why were we so blind to see this madness reveals every truth to me? Been spending most our lives living in the old god's paradise. There's nothing that is sanctified, living in the old god's paradise. We all moan and agonize, living in the old god's paradise. Twilight's hammer sacrifice, living in the old god's paradise. Nyaloth awakes, returning Black Empire, aiming for the hour of twilight to transpire. Gahuna aiming to spread rotten pestilence around, and it seems Zalatath keeps on wanting to be found. Mantid, Nerubians, Karaji, and Dakir, elemental beings and horrific nightmares. Corrupted dragons, cultists, mighty forces encompass. It's clear to me what the inevitable result is. Been spending most our lives living in the old god's paradise. No point and no more lights, living in the old god's paradise. Their bodies reach enormous heights, living in the old god's paradise. There's no days and endless nights, living in the old god's paradise. Why were we so blind to see this madness reveals every truth to me? Tell me, why were we so blind to see this madness reveals every truth to me?
Well done. That was so good. That was so good.
Thank you.
What's crazy?
That's incredible.
That is incredible.
That's incredible.
To record, like to write it and record it like immediately before the show tonight is even more impressive, and I love it. So, that's amazing.
There's some elements in there we're going to touch on exactly what I'm talking about, and some of that, and other. Well, we're going to have to wait until the other two Old God episodes, so.
All right. Okay, so
foreshadowing.
Right. Okay, so we now are picking up in the, I guess the cataclysm and a fight now, and there's some Deathwing and some of the elementals, and so let's bring that up here.
Right. So we're skipping quite a bit of time here, over 10,000 years to the modern time, and all the way up past the first few expansions of Warcraft. So where the situation currently stands is back in the vanilla World of Warcraft, the classic stuff, near the end of that, the adventurers, the forces of Azeroth, uncovered Cthulhu and managed to defeat it. Again, we'll talk more about that another time in a Cthulhu episode. And then later on, during the fight against the Lich King, they happened to stumble upon Yogg-Saron's place, and Yogg-Saron ended up getting defeated. And so N'Zoth is kind of the only old god left right now. And he sees that this is the time, want to make sure that not too much time passes because it's clear that the creatures on Azeroth are capable of defeating old gods. Really don't want that to happen to me, so let's strike first. And as a bonus, the world is weak right now because everyone is exhausted from defeating the endless armies of the Undead Scourge and Lich King. I mean, there's some heavy losses that were taken there. And so if you're going to strike at a wounded target. This is where he gathers all of the pawns into play so far. Deathwing is infused with even more old god power than ever before. So much so that it even further starts to tear his body apart, which is why it always looks like, your Deathwing is bleeding lava or something. And N'Zoth sends another key element that we haven't quite touched on yet. But the Twilight's Hammer Cultists are a group of fanatical old god worshippers who want to bring about the end of all things. We briefly mentioned some of this aspect back in our Stormwind episode when we talked about Dark Bishop Benedictus, who is one of the members there. Cho'Gall is the leader of the Twilight's Hammer, who is the one who wields the Hammer of Twilight that we have our little card up here on the screen. And so, the Twilight's Hammer are one of the big forces that N'Zoth has in terms of, basically a personal army in that regard. And he sends some of them to go down and bolt some metal plates onto Deathwing to try to hold him together, like riveting a Band-Aid onto your skin or something. Very painful, but it's keeping him together. It's doing the job. It's the WD-40 and wrench and everything. The duct tape. It's the duct tape that keeps Deathwing together.
That's great. Well, you had mentioned in the lore episode last time of the Black Dragon fight that he's he's trying to contain pure chaos, and there's just so much energy and destruction trying to burst out from inside that he's literally falling apart.
Yeah, his body's tearing itself apart. It's not a healthy dragon physiology, frankly.
It's analogous to it's like Darth Vader, right? You know, becoming a Sith Lord, the body is breaking apart. You gotta add on some spare parts here to keep things together.
Yeah, that's
I thought
a fair
we were talking
comparison.
about old gods, not gnomes.
Old gods, gnomes, Jedi, Sith, whatever.
But so Deathwing is essentially going to be the Grand General who's coordinating all of N'Zoth's other forces. So some of the other aces in the hole that N'Zoth has is he's going to pull out those enslaved elemental lords again. Now, two of them don't follow along. Neptulon and Therazane managed to break the binds that shackle them to the old god's will over the centuries, and so they don't want to be controlled. But Ragnaros and Alakir, our old buddies, happen to be more aggressive, let's say, and they're not even so much that they have to, but they want to work with N'Zoth anyway, because he promises them a free world of chaos to rule over and destruction as they see fit. You can put volcanoes anywhere that you want. You can have huge tempest winds with nothing to get in the way, and that sort of stuff. And so they are all sent to do little missions of their own. The Naga are sent out actually because, well, Neptulon not obeying N'Zoth is a bit of a problem. So the Naga are sent to go and try to constrain him there and take over the elemental plane of water. And basically, there's a whole bunch of different plots and plans that N'Zoth puts into play, and only one of them needs to work in order for the Hour of Twilight to be brought about. Miraculously, because we are player characters, we are able to stop every single one of them. Stop N'Zoth from using the Naga to take over the area called Vashir, where they're posing the threat to Neptulon. We're able to stop Ragnaros from burning down Mount Hyjal, which is a very strong druidic area with lots of wild gods and stuff. And Alakir is attempting to seize the Forge of Origination from the Tolvir, who you may remember from Old Doom, Secrets of Old Doom. This is that area right here that Alakir is causing some trouble in, and essentially trying to seize this thing that the Titans built that can completely destroy all life on Azeroth as a reset button if there's too much corruption. But, make it old god so that instead destroys everything and spreads corruption. And so that there's all of these different plans. Twilight's Hammer is doing their thing. We managed to stop all of them and eventually take down Deathwing himself, finally, in the big final raid of the expansion. And during that time, as the last says chapter, N'Zoth pumps Deathwing even more full of the crazy, destructive, chaotic power, and he just looks even crazier than he does on any of the art right here. If you do the final raid, we don't have any images of this particular, but he's
That's
just
where
like,
he is power incarnate.
kind of, yeah. Like he's even more lava and stuff that you see him here, and like lava mixed with old god tendrils and all that. But that's all taken care of, and N'Zoth is He's kind of lost a lot of powerful allies here. The Twilight's Hammer Cult is still a thing, but severely reduced in power. A lot of the leaders are gone. The Elemental Lords are both taken out, and there's no one in charge of the Fire Air Elementals for quite some time, actually. And Deathwing is down. But the Naga are still around, so, Queen Azshara didn't take a personal hand in any of this, so she is still very much available. And she is kind of what N'Zoth is going to rely on for the next stage here as a backup plan in order to get loose. So, right now, we are going to jump forward a few more Warcraft expansions to the island nation of Kul Tiras. The Kul Tirans are a very naval focused nation. In fact, this is where Jaina Proudmoore is from. Her father was the Grand Admiral Dallas Proudmoore of the nation of Kul Tiras. And there are several houses of Kul Tiras, noble houses that kind of specialize in different things. One of them is called House Stormsong, and they have their specialty with what's called the Tide Sages. These are kind of shaman-esque like priests who bless all the ships of the Kul Tiran Navy and make them especially seaworthy, who have a special control over the tides. And they are led by Lord Stormsong. But again, similar to how there's the whole, when you have a strong link with something, and that has a connection with evil, that's how they got Deathwing. N'Zoth and Queen Ashara are going to use that to influence House Stormsong and the Tide Sages. And we can see with our little picture right here, Stormsong ends up growing some tentacles when he pledges himself to Queen Ashara. And we have many of them are turned into what's called Kathir. So we have that card. And let's see, can't remember. Which expansion did that card come out in?
Dark Moon Race or Madness at the Dark Moon Fair.
Ah, of course,
I
that
think it's
makes sense
Madness.
because that was a very old god themed expansion.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember a lot of people, no one ever paid much attention to this card as a card, but when I saw it, I'm like, yeah, that's one of the more recent creations of the old gods. Basically, corrupted humans that are kind of semi-turned into faceless. Not quite faceless, but it's N'Zoth's latest branding attempt, I suppose. It's like, okay, let's see if I can come up with a new look here.
He just watched the Pirates of the Caribbean films and he was like, Davy Jones. That's the
Yes.
aesthetic I'm looking for. Nailed
Yes,
it.
exactly. There's a whole quest that you go through when you're playing the Battle for Azeroth expansion of World of Warcraft about uncovering what has happened with the Tide Sages and taking out Lord Stormsong and helping to rescue the fleet, because Queen Azshara has trapped the entire Kul Tiran fleet in this eternal storm. But once this is dealt with, and Lady Janet Proudmoore actually ends up becoming the Grand Admiral of the nation of Kul Tiras, following in the footsteps of her father, then she is able to use the power that helps to bring the fleet home and out of that storm, where they can in turn aid the Alliance in ongoing conflicts. And so that was one of N'Zoth and Ashara's plans. They were trying to get control of the fleet there. Didn't quite work, but Ashara has more to come because there is another stage a bit later on in the expansion. There is this knife that we meet. This actually was originally a weapon that priests wielded back in the Legion expansion. Her name is Xal'atath, and no one knows exactly what she is. It's called the Blade of the Black Empire. All the way from there have been theories that maybe she is like a sentient part of an old god that was kind of, torn off of the body and has amazing power. Maybe she's even another old god or old god-like creature that is imprisoned in this knife. No one really knows for sure what she is, but she's made a deal with N'Zoth because she wants to get out of this dagger that she's stuck in. Because so far, all she can do is, throughout history, trick and manipulate people into wielding her to do all sorts of evil stuff. But she's still just stuck as a dagger. So she manages to manipulate whatever your player character is into gathering several important artifacts that will help to get them out of the hands of Naga, who are going to try to create this huge storm that will encompass all of Azeroth. But one of the things that happens is one of these relics is called the Void Stone. It's being wielded by this high elf sorceress, and you kill her, and Xal'atath decides that she's going to take over that body. So that's our little image here. Because she's like, it's been so long since I had a mortal form. Being something aside from just a knife. So she essentially is reanimating this corpse and taking it over. And she's like, I look good. Like she essentially
like
says that. Yeah. She's like, the appearance is pleasing, is it not?
So
elves.
That's great. Hey, so in Hearthstone, where this presents itself, because before the show we were chatting, and I was like, "Oh, what? I wish I could find a picture for this. It's not in Hearthstone." You're like, "Actually, it is in Hearthstone." So this is one of the treasures that you get from Queen Ashara.
Ashara.
Right. So 5 treasures, are buried into your deck, and you have to dredge them up, and this is one of them here. And so without knowing the story behind it, you just think, oh well, this is kind of cool, but like, wow, this is really rich. So this is just super cool.
Yeah, each of those treasures has something behind it. Again, we're going to go over that in the special dedicated lore episode, but Xal'atath here is the only one that has a mind of her own, and manages to manipulate the player character, again, whoever you are, whatever you are, into bringing all of these artifacts down into an area deep beneath Stormsong Valley in Kul Tiras called the Shrine of Storms, where there's a little bit of N'Zoth that seems to be there. That's the eye image that we're looking at right there. And in exchange, it's like these things are brought that help to empower N'Zoth somewhat. And in return, he severs her bond to the dagger. She just kind of opens up this void portal, says, hey, I know we're going to meet again, and disappears, and she hasn't been in the game as to this point, but she'll be back at some point. We just have no clue what she is, what she's planning, but it can't be any good. We're just going to have to see for that. But at this point, that means the dagger is still here, but it's empty. And the Horde ends up picking this up and delivering it to their war chief, Sylvanas, who happens to have some very sinister cosmic scale plans going on here about orchestrating a war and trying to create as much death as possible so that she can fuel this evil death god, and that's a whole other story here. It's been in from the Shadowlands expansion that's actually just wrapping up as we're recording this. But basically, she arranges that Xal'atath, the dagger, again, it's empty right now, is brought to Queen Azshara. And the Horde and Alliance kind of end up shipwrecked and trapped in Nazjatar, which is the capital city of the Naga that they built around the ruins of the Sunken City of Zinashari, aka where the next expansion is taking place. And again, we're not going to go into everything that happens there, but essentially what we get, and this is stuff that's on our next slide here, is that Queen Azshara, this is all part of her plan where she manipulates them into chasing her down and powering up this ancient Titan artifact with what is called the Heart of Azeroth. Essentially, it's something from the world soul of Azeroth itself. That's an entire mechanic in that expansion where you're like powering it up, absorbing this thing called Azerite, which is the blood of the world, etc. A whole other tangent. But essentially, Azshara tricks the Alliance and Horde into powering up the Titan device that opens N'Zoth's cage. And N'Zoth gets loose.
No.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So
What?
With the whisper,
we got an
chaos
old god that
comes.
is fully on the loose right now. This is a problem.
Yeah.
And it just so happens that no one knows where N'Zoth is. They scour the whole world, can't find it. Turns out help comes from an unexpected place. Wrathion. Who you guys remember who Wrathion is from last time, right?
Oh yes, yeah. And our new mercenary friend too. So this is one of the youngest of the Black Dragon Flight, right? Who is our little whelp.
Yes. And he has now matured out of being a whelp. He's more like a juvenile drake at this point. He's kind of more of a teenage dragon than a baby dragon. But he thankfully has grown a little bit wiser because he honestly made a lot of really stupid mistakes that resulted in he was trying to fix everything and I accidentally set events in motion that are going to result in the demonic army invading. My bad.
Oops.
But now he's a bit smarter. He is determined to avoid the fate that fell his father Deathwing and studying how to stop the corruption of N'Zoth. And so he becomes a major ally. Like, he is the expert. He's studied up on this stuff. He wrote his doctorate thesis on preventing N'Zoth corruption here and sets up headquarters in a little area called the Chamber of the Heart, which is actually where the Heart of Azeroth comes from. And they come to the conclusion that by using the power of that Forge of Origination that we talked about a bit earlier before, that N'Zoth wanted to actually get a control of, because remember, its purpose is that it purges corruption. They discover that what they can do, this is all on the next slide, by the way, what they can do is if they can find a way to beam this power directly into N'Zoth's home of Nyalotha, the sleeping city, which is what I referenced in the song. This is, in fact, not... It is sometimes referred to as the Sunken City, but it's not so much a physical place as like a plane of existence where N'Zoth exists free in his entirety, where the Black Empire is in its fullness, and N'Zoth wants to merge the two worlds together to draw the real world into his horrific vision of what he wants the world to be. In fact, horrific visions are a little mini-game thing that you play at this point in the game where in order to build up your resistance and resistance of special cloak that is your protection from N'Zoth's influence, you go into these corruptions of how he envisions Stormwind and Orgrimmar, which is our top image right here of N'Zoth's image of a corrupted Stormwind, where everybody is like a Kathir or driven mad and you have to fight them. Even some of the people who you know as allies in the real world, you have to fight their twisted forms that how they would be like if N'Zoth had his way with them. And this is something for both Alliance and Horde type of characters in both Stormwind and Orgrimmar. But after all of that resistance is built up, you manage to be able to go into what is the final raid of that expansion, Nyalotha. No longer the sleeping city, the waking city. That's a problem. It's a problem that it's waking up. And the essential goal is that you have to set up these kind of like you shoot. Kind of like you're placing mirrors so you can angle a laser to hit a target. Yeah, you basically go through Nyalotha in the raid, setting up these special Titan reflectors that will angle the beam from the Forge of Origination to hit N'Zoth square right in his heart, in his mind even. And Wrathion manages to use the empty Xalatath dagger to cut straight through N'Zoth's body. It's the only weapon that can damage him. And so that's where a part of the plan comes into. That's why it was important that we talked about Xalatath here. Yeah. Without that dagger, N'Zoth could never be defeated. So thanks to Wrathion's knowledge and N'Zoth's vulnerability to that dagger. By the way, I should mention that during this raid, you also encounter Queen Azshara. You defeat her in that one raid where she manages to trick you into freeing N'Zoth, but he revived her. Turns out that she actually wasn't a fan of N'Zoth the whole time. Her ultimate plan was to free him so that she could use the dagger to kill him herself and therefore be free from any ties to N'Zoth. Or so she says. That's assuming that she's not just lying and manipulating us as a last-ditch effort. And so, yeah, she actually gets away, and she's on the loose now. We have no clue where Queen Ashara is either, as we currently speak. But, yeah, that image right there is when N'Zoth revived her. She's like, because it's, like getting old god CPR, essentially. Just, I assume, not a pleasant experience.
No.
And N'Zoth figured out what she was onto, and she's actually being tortured, and you actually rescue her, ironically enough, when she gives you Xalatath. And then you go in and finally cut through N'Zoth's body, the carapace, get right into his mind, fight and keep your sanity, and finally, your allies back in the heart of the chamber managed to beam that right in there, and that's our image down there from the short little cinematic at the end of the raid, where it's just completely destroying it. And because it's that intense power, N'Zoth is utterly destroyed. All of Nyalotha is utterly destroyed as a plane of existence. We do have one little more cameo at the end. That's something that takes place in the raid, because we have our old buddy from Old Doom, Ra, who, again, I love the Moku Cultist card just because it got this guy in. Frankly, I think with the new Colossal Minion type, that would probably be a good way to get more of like his fellow Titan Keepers in as cards with how, powerful and impressive they are. That might be good for a custom card contest at some point, honestly. But yeah, Ra essentially was one of the allies that you recruit in order to help to fight against N'Zoth's corruption, figure out what's going on. But he got pulled into Nyalotha while he was trying to defend it, and actually succumbed to N'Zoth's corruption because he'd been dealing with severe depression beforehand anyway, for reasons that we don't have time to get into. It's this whole story connected with the Thunder King, Lei Shen, who, there's that shaman skin and everything, and a whole bunch of Mogu stuff. But essentially, N'Zoth was only just, Ra was only just starting to stave off that depression, and then you get pulled into the realm of just everything bad, and N'Zoth takes over, and he becomes corrupted, and you have to defeat him. So he is one of the bosses in that raid on your way to completely defeating N'Zoth. But yeah, that is essentially what the story of this particular old god right here. He was the one who hung back and did the opportune strikes. Maybe there's a strategy in Hearthstone that you could compare that to. The vocabulary is escaping me right now, but he played the long game, made a few gambles. What?
Attrition. A deck of attrition, right?
Yep, he played a game of attrition there, and they didn't quite pan out because, almost succeeded so many times, but the heroes of Azeroth managed to hold him back every time because player characters. We are so lucky we have plot armor. Otherwise, Azeroth would be screwed multiple times over at these dark forces. But yeah, that is the story of N'Zoth. We'll get into more details about his Naga minions, what they were like beforehand, what they're kind of doing a bit more outside N'Zoth's influence. Some of them kind of break away a little bit and help Illidan out. There are others who, like N'Zoth isn't a thing anymore. What are they doing now? So we can touch on a few more of those topics and all the other cool under the sea stuff from Voyage to the Sunken City next time.
Yeah. So before we kind of call it a wrap on N'Zoth, I know that, obviously the player character, kills N'Zoth and the blaze of glory. Is it possible, that N'Zoth might still be alive, be it through some sort of offshoot, like the fish of N'Zoth living and then kind of sprouting from that, and that kind of chaos developing still N'Zoth? Like you said, he's had so many plans in motion to try and, take over. Is it possible that he's still there, or is it kind of like a definitive no, like you got him at the seed, like you got him at the roots, like you pulled the roots out, like he's gone?
That is the most likely thing, because this thing, old gods are extremely difficult to kill. It is very likely that, for ones like Cthulhu and Yogg-Saron, who were kind of defeated in a more conventional way while still in their prisons, it's very likely they're just kind of knocked back into a more comatose state and could revive at some point. N'Zoth was free from the prison and in another plane of existence that was all his own when he was utterly obliterated by a beam created by the Titans specifically for the purpose of eliminating corruption. So if anything is going to kill N'Zoth, that will very likely do it. That doesn't mean that the world is free from old god influence, though. It's entirely possible that at some point there could be some place where old god souls go, like pockets of the void, and then eventually they'll all come back stronger than before if we ever get a Return to the Black Empire expansion or something like that. Never fully discount that an old god is completely gone, out of action and not a direct threat for now, at least. But if anything was going to take him out, that should do it. But we can't say for 100% sure.
That makes sense.
Yeah. All right. Everybody's homework assignment: go watch the movie Fallen with Denzel Washington, and then report back. Okay, and we can have a conversation some other time. I don't want to spoil it, but our conversation got me thinking about it, and there's some analogy here. So anyways, cool. Well, I'm anxious to pick your brain about many things Sunken City related, but I suppose we probably should wait on some of those things until we do that particular lore episode, and wait until we get the rest of the cards revealed to see if there are any other last minute surprises in store for us. So we've got 4 more days from today until the rest of the cards are revealed. And so I'm still holding out for N'Zoth, or the Fish of N'Zoth, but I can see it. It's so late in the game with such a major character.
I think that we are very likely to get a mini set that focuses a bit more on N'Zoth and the Nyalotha elements of things, largely because since mini sets so far are like the expansion of a general theme, all of this Nyalotha stuff happens directly after all of the Naga and Queen Azshara stuff in World of Warcraft, where, it gets released and everything. So I think it's possible they could decide to go that route. Maybe they'll decide something else. This is my current working theory at the moment, because as you pointed out before, we did get the fish in the teaser. There's probably something going on there.
Yeah. I had to go back and watch the trailer again and to see did they sneak it in there, because I remember it's if you go to the Play Hearthstone website, you have to scroll a little bit, but like the fish is there, like it's just hanging out. Like they do things too intentionally to they're not just gonna
good at this.
They're not just gonna like leave it there for flavor and not use it. Like they could use it later. Like Minnie said, it's so late in the game that it'd almost be a little bit weird if they're like, by the way, day of the giant card reveal, new N'Zoth, surprise. Although they could.
Well, and I think just hearing the story that Goliath told us tonight too, it's possible that in the big card dump, we get the Fish of N'Zoth, and the Fish of N'Zoth talking to the Naga Queen is kind of what eventually brought N'Zoth back out, right?
That would make sense for a mini set, yeah. And actually, you know what? We keep talking about Colossal +6 that would take up the whole board. N'Zoth could be a neutral Colossal
with all of those tendrils and everything.
That just take up the entire.
Be amazing.
That's exactly what I'm thinking.
Oh my goodness! All right. Prediction.
Oh my old god!
Right. All right. Yes. Predictions. These are spicy hot takes here. I love it. I think if it makes so much sense, though.
It does. Instead of oh my Yogg, it'll be oh my N'Zoth.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm really excited for a lot of this stuff, and we actually do. One of the Warlock legendaries that has been revealed as we speak is a faceless old god minion that has some connections between the Naga and the N'Zoth stuff. So that's another possible tendril clue that we have there.
I'm excited. All right, cool. Well, I think that pretty much wraps it up for our lore episode for tonight. Are there any other kind of final hot takes or any other last minute things before we kind of shift gears and wrap things up?
Nothing from me. I think that we've summed up things pretty well. I'm happy if there's any clarifications that need to be made about Nazoth or whatnot. But he's a really cool god. The master manipulator, the puppet master. Such a great character that was constantly people were theorizing about who Nazoth was, where Nazoth was, when we would see Nazoth. But here's the fun thing. You guys may have heard this before, but Hearthstone is the first time we got to see what N'Zoth looks like.
Yes.
Long before it was ever. Warcraft had to do its design based off of how the Hearthstone artist chose to depict N'Zoth when he finally appeared as a raid boss, which I just find so cool. That element, that key thing that Hearthstone played in contributing to N'Zoth's lore.
Yeah,
awesome.
that's so cool to be able to unveil the character, the artwork before it was in the game even. It's just incredible. So yeah, I love it. That's awesome.
Hearing this story and even just so many of the emotes from the N'Zoth hero portrait with the whisper, chaos comes. He whispers and weaving that kind of Grima Wormtongue style
Yes.
corruption, just like so many pieces are falling into place. And as I play now more with the N'Zoth hero card, which I will of course be re-equipping.
Same. I will do that too.
It'll just I'll be thinking back to this constantly throughout, and I'm even more excited.
You can bet we're going to get some great back and forth between when a player has the N'Zoth hero card and when someone has the new Ashara one.
Oh, that's going to be great.
We're going to have some
can't
custom
wait.
lines for that, guaranteed.
Oh, we're going to have to test that out. That's going to be fun.
Yeah. Oh, and okay, so if there's a bunch of websites, but you can play all the sounds here, and there are so many special triggers here.
Sacrifice.
Oh my goodness, that's super loud. Is that loud for you guys?
That was a little loud for me, yes. But that's when you use the hero power that taps your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has a few different interactions. Remember, he has one with the Thunder King, where he talks about he calls him a child of the Titans, because he has that connection. The Titans are diametrically opposed. He has a special one with Garrosh, because Garrosh had that thing where he absorbed the heart of Y'Shaarj we talked about last time.
Yes.
He's like, our gifts are not your weapons, War Chief. And it's like he has some great ones.
Weapons, War Chief.
There we go.
Yeah. Okay.
So you know.
The Titans, your time has come.
Mm-hmm.
Long have I whispered to you. You too have heard the calling from the deep.
Long have I whispered to you? He's talking to Deathwing.
Machinations of your dark heart. Such gifts I bestowed on your people, your queen.
That's for Lady Vosh, and then and then here's which makes sense because she's a Naga, and then here's for Deathwing.
Worldbreaker, you heard my call in the deep.
Mm-hmm. So now you know where all those come from.
That is so cool.
And the sleeping city shall awaken.
That's Nyalotha, the waking city.
My hand is full.
Okay, we all know what that one means.
Back to sleep.
Actually, that makes sense. Like all of these make sense now when you listen to even this, like Back to Sleep or very cool. Very cool. Oh yeah, and hey, these are so perfect. Like, okay, so just imagine this, right? Queen Ashara underwater, can't breathe. Little fishy comes up.
I can save you from what is to come.
Oh my gosh, that's perfect.
Yes, frequently throughout the raid, N'Zoth keeps trying to address you, the player champion, as his champion, saying, no, come, give in, fight for me. There's an even greater evil coming than me, and only I can protect you from it. Is like constantly saying that sort of thing, trying to bestow his gift upon you, which you can choose to either keep or get cleansed. There were some players who considered themselves to be agents of N'Zoth and kept the little purple eye on their forehead throughout the game.
Oh, that's cool too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Welcome, my devoted chosen.
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh. All right. But here's the greatest one of all.
Yo ho ho.
Pirate Day, yes.
Pirate Day.
I forgot about Pirate Day.
Oh.
They all have one.
Yo
Oh, ho.
ho.
Oh, I love it.
These are great. We could play these all night long. But
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey, this was great. Thank you so much for sharing the story with us. I cannot wait until we get to learn even more and see what else is in store for.
Right there with you. I can't wait to tell it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let us transition real quick towards the end of the show. I do want to touch on our weekly listener challenge here. So, Sheep, if you would please do the honors.
Absolutely. So last week's challenge was in honor of Hydra, who we dearly miss, to make 3 of the same minion. That's the same card art. So, doppelganger, sorry, has to also have the same, not gold or gold, whichever. So exact same card, same stats, same minion, everything. So 3 of the same, making a Hydra. And of course, the tiebreaker is stats. And, I kicked it off with a desert hare, just 3 1/1s. And our winner this week had a little bit higher than 1/1. And our winner this week is Mickle with 3 Shutterwalks of 7281.
Good old Mickle. He's a rather consistent champion around here.
Absolutely. And we saw this was actually some pretty good competition here, because looking in the Discord under the weekly challenge, I know Ben from work put up a pretty good fight here. There were 3 2020s. And then Kenray also came in with 3 33s. And I didn't think we were going to see it topped. And Mickle came in with the Shutterwalk. And a lot of times, it doesn't work out like this. But all 3 had the exact same stats. And we got the screenshot here. And so that's incredible. And, this is how we do. If there's a tiebreaker, we fall back on stats. And so...
Bravo. I'm impressed.
And we had said it, even I think with Shutterwalk almost harder, because sometimes you're playing like Zola the Gorgon or whatever it is, and it's like, they all have to look identical as well, so you couldn't have some golden and some not. But the screenshots is here. There's definitely 3 7281 Shutterwalks. Like, my goodness. So big congrats to Mickle. What an amazing feat here. Was really just super impressed with this one and love seeing it. So, yeah.
So, congratulations, Mickle. Of course, that means that you win 2 packs on us. But more importantly, your name will be emblazoned in the Hall of Fame, which resides on the Born to Be Wild website, borntobewildhs.com.
Hooray!
Hurrah!
So this week's challenge, we're keeping it in line with our old god, thematic. So we want to see how many Naga and N'Zoth minions you can have on board at the same time. You don't have to play them all on the same turn, but they do all need to be on the board at the same time. So it can be on either side of the board, yours or your opponent's, but they all have to be on board right then. So, of course, Naga, I don't think the tribe has made it into the game itself yet, has it?
It has not. It has not. And so that's something that's coming in the next patch. But in the meantime, those minions would be Darkscale Healer, Naga Sea Witch, Zola the Gorgon, Coilfang Warlord, and then the
second half of
the token that it poops out. Yeah. And then Lady Vosh. And then, of course, Vosh Prime, Naga Sandwich, and then Wrathscale Naga.
Is that really all the Naga that we have prior to this expansion?
Yes.
All the ones that are getting the Naga tag, at least.
Ah, okay.
There's
because there's the pirate one, but she's staying a pirate.
Right.
She doesn't count for this.
No, and Patches is the good example in that, like, well, at least what Hearthstone had said is that, like, if it's two, kind of like in Mercenaries, if it's like Patches is a demon and a pirate, well, it's going to maintain the pirate tag.
Right.
It's your occupation.
If the card art is specifically a Naga, like, it feels like a wobbler to me, but these are the ones that they confirmed. And so, but hey, I mean, the more the merrier, but sometimes, it's hard to tell what's a Naga and what's not, at least for me. The other half
a Naga
here,
or a Natka?
Yeah, exactly.
I will show myself out.
That I appreciated that one. That was that's not gonna be topped. So, of course, the other half of that, aside from the minions of N'Zoth, are N'Zoth himself. So, of course, that is N'Zoth, God of the Deep, or N'Zoth. N'Zoth the Corruptor, so OG N'Zoth. But we also have expanded that to Spawn of N'Zoth, Tentacle of N'Zoth, and of course, we were talking earlier about pirates, N'Zoth's first mate as well. So, those are our N'Zoth minions, and then the Naga minions that we mentioned earlier. As many of those as you can get on board at once. Send us a screenshot. Put it in the so how to participate, of course. Challenges can be played either in casual or on ladder. You just can't do it against a friend. Your friend will help you win, or against the innkeeper. The innkeeper won't try, but the innkeeper will also help you in. So we don't want you to tank your rank, so you don't have to play it on ladder, but we don't also want to make it too easy, so casual is the other mode that it works. None of the other PvE, and not against a friend. So once you've gotten your screenshot, post it in our Discord, in the weekly challenges channel. And the winner will be announced on next week's show, just like Mikkel was tonight. And, of course, receive 2 Hearthstone packs on us, the expansion of your choice, and the best prize of all, be immortalized in the Hall of Fame on the Born to Be Wild website. We look forward to seeing as many N'Zoth or N'Zoth devoted as possible.
Love it.
Like the devoted chosen.
Exactly.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Well, thank you all so much for hanging out tonight. One final reminder before we go. Just one final reminder that we are participating in a Theorycraft stream sponsored by Play Hearthstone with a handful of other content creators this upcoming week. It's Thursday, April the 7th from 9 a.m. Pacific to 3 p.m. Pacific all day. We all got to take the day off work to play with new cards all day, specifically from a wild perspective. And so all of our decks will be wild decks. They must include at least 5 new cards from the expansion. But we'll be trying out a bunch of Theorycraft decks, putting some fun under the sea spin on our favorite decks here, and maybe find some new ones too. So I hope you're all able to join us this coming week. And aside from that, we'll be back next Friday evening with I'm sure a pretty fun recap of the event in case you miss it. Thank you all so much for hanging out tonight. Everybody who's listening to this or watching it after the fact, thank you so much for watching and listening. It means the world to us, and love y'all. See you next week on another new episode of Born to be Wild.
Wiser words have never been spoken. It gets me every time.